So our project is on genetically engineering fungi to be resilient foods for low-light disasters.
Here we are going to talk about the problem, the mighty oyster mushroom, the solution, and how we are going to solve it.
So, nuclear winter and low-light disasters. Nuclear war is currently a severe risk to the future of humanity, with tensions high everywhere and threats being thrown around. While nuclear war itself and the ensuing radioactive fallout would cause many deaths, our focus issue is one that's left out of discussions but equally as concerning. A massive amount of debris that detonating nuclear weapons would propel into the atmosphere would block out sunlight, making Earth cold and dark. A supervolcanic eruption or an asteroid impact would have similar results. Many crops that we rely on would not be able to grow, so widespread famine would occur. Many survivors would die as the Earth can no longer provide for them.
Besides the main long-termist case, we also have one problem we would like to solve that's near-termist, and that's malnutrition. Because by using our solution, we would be able to save many lives now or in the near future. People who are dying from protein malnutrition, and also by implementing our idea in the world. Now we would make the long-termist case stronger because the infrastructure would already be present, so it wouldn't be as hard to transition to using materials that would be available in the low-light catastrophe. And some facts about malnutrition today. About 53% of children roughly die because of protein malnutrition, which we hope to solve, and undernourishment is rising. Other protein sources that are traditionally used, like cattle or fish, are being affected by climate change. Cattle are dying from heat strokes, and overfishing is making fish less profitable. And plants are a possible protein source, but they require a lot of water and also wouldn't be possible to grow in a low-light catastrophe, as Diana told before. And the method we are proposing to use would be able to feed 15 children a day with enough protein, and it would only require 1 kilogram of agricultural waste, which is extremely cheap. It's less than $0.1, as is explained in the document that we have made. And we want to increase this number as high as possible by using genetic modification.
So why mushrooms? Mushrooms can transform indigestible matter and waste into food, so they won't compete with humans. Growing them doesn't require high-tech equipment. They have minimal need for water. They require little to no light, which is great for a low-light catastrophe. Fungi can be easily cloned on a massive scale, so once you have that strain, it can be distributed everywhere. And their protein is nutritionally comparable to meat. So even if industry collapsed and light was scarce, mushrooms can provide food for us out of wood and peat without taking away any food that humans could eat.
Mushrooms aren't perfect. That's the reason why OLFED, the organization which tries to find the best resilient foods, didn't recommend them in most cases. But we want to solve this problem by genetically modifying the mushrooms, because they have more advantages than disadvantages, we think, when it comes to genetically modified mushrooms. Another problem is that the other solutions that are high-tech are more efficient at producing food from lignocellulose, like making lignocellulosic sugar by using bacteria fermentation. And another problem is that the substrate that would be used could be contaminated by moths that could ruin the yield and would make it inefficient. Another problem is that while mushrooms can grow only on lignocellulose or cellulose, they make much more protein and thrive much more when they have nitrogen in their substrate, which wouldn't be available because it's mostly from wheat bran and soy powder. But we hope to eliminate these weaknesses through our research and development, and because mushrooms show clear potential as a candidate for meat substitute in low-light catastrophes.
So why oyster mushrooms? Well, they're high protein, so they have the highest average protein content of any fungi. They're versatile. They can be grown in many substrates, even sawdust or used coffee grounds, which should still be available in a low light disaster. And they're resilient, so they don't require much sterilization as it outcompetes most molds and can even some of them withstand super hot temperatures.
As we said, we would like to solve the problem with not having nitrogen source for the mushrooms to produce more protein. One method we are proposing is using mealworms as recyclers of the wasted nitrogen from the mushroom production waste, because about 88% of the substrate weight remains after mushrooms have fed on it. It is enriched with mycelium. That means that a lot of protein stays inside of the matter, so it is quite a good food for mealworms to eat and produce more protein, which we then can use as mealworm flour. They also contain a lot of saturated fat acids, so that would also help prevent malnutrition or would feed people in a low light disaster. The main method how we want to recycle the nitrogen is that while the mealworms would feed on the residue, they would produce feces, or also called frass, that contain a lot of nitrogen and today are used as plant fertilizers. And this way we would not waste anything, which is great.
Okay, is it okay if I quickly just use this slide to summarize? So on the slide, you can see our next steps. This is the next, our plan for our project. We're going to be doing testing, and then we're going to genetically modify the mushroom so we can distribute it in malnourished areas, which, as you can see at the bottom, it would help establish global infrastructure for distribution in the event of a low light disaster. Yeah, thank you for listening.